Welcome back, Iceberg Loungers. We are here to review the third episode. Hey, Andy, how are
Hey,
you
Anessa.
doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing Ice Laundry. I love it. I love it. I'm now I kind of need the club to get like fixed for the next Batman movie, so that it actually like 'cause then we can actually like really embrace it. So, but I'm good. We're we're on the track with this show. This show is just continuing to stay really good.
Yes, we're reviewing the third episode, Bliss of the Penguin. We're now on Sunday release dates, so every Sunday there's a new episode. This was a fun episode. We got to before we dive into it, we're gonna touch on a couple of news items for DC. Jon Stewart casting news speculation has been dropped. People have been talking about it. I think it was two guys are in the running right now: Aaron Pierre and Stephen James, right? Stephen James. And Aaron's like got his having his moment right now because I think he just had a movie release and everyone's like talking about him. And the fact that he's like green eyes or whatever. And I'm still on Trevante Rhodes from Moonlight. Like I still want that to be my Jon Stewart. But yeah, what do you think, Andy, about these picks?
I mean, who knows? Maybe he is like a secret candidate. Maybe we just don't know it yet. I no, listen. For me, I wanted my buddy Wally Parks from Superman Lois, who plays John Henry Irons, to play Jon Stewart because I'm like, I'm not ready to say goodbye to him yet from the DC world. But if these are the two guys that were like, if it's really between these two guys, according to the Hollywood Report, then I've only seen Aaron. He was on Krypton during the short-lived Superman prequel show, and but yeah, no, like I've seen him now, like like a little bit here and there throughout the last few years. I'm like, first of all, like, the dude is jacked. Like if we get him, like he would be a thick Jon Stewart. Um, so, uh, I did see there was a lot of talks online. Like people were like, some people really want a more darker skin actor to play John. So I don't know who do you want between these two?
Yeah, my main criticism of Aaron Pierre is the same that's shared with a lot of people. He's a little bit light skinned to play Jon Stewart, and Jon Stewart's one of our few dark skinned black superheroes. And the creator, I believe Neil Adams, I think the intention was for him to be a dark skinned black person, and like talked about the colors, like the actual color and coding and all that use of it. So I personally, I would prefer to until we get to a point where like there's enough ready roles for like everyone of all shades and colors. I think I would prefer to go with an actor who looks a little bit more like him as well as can act. I don't think we should just choose someone just because he has like green eyes. Like that's why we have like computer effects and stuff. We can generate green eyes for him. You know what I mean? Like really cool green eyes. But I get why people like he's obviously very good looking and he is the moment right now. But I would prefer Trevante Rhodes. Like I said, I think he's excellent, and he's only been in like smaller, like not that big of roles since Moonlight. And I really want him to. He has the face, he has the hair. He looks so good. But yeah, I hear everyone's criticism. Like I get it. Like I understand. Yeah, it's kind of like,
How do
huh?
how do you feel about because we also have a Hal Jordan now. We have Kyle Chandler from
Oh yeah.
Friday Night Lights.
I feel nothing about that casting.
Is it specifically because you don't like Hal Jordan, or is it just like
I mean, Kyle Chandler is a pretty decent actor. Like everything I've seen him, he's pretty good in, and I don't really like Hal Jordan as a character. So those two things kind of equal out to me not caring at all
yeah,
about it. I'm happy for Hal Jordan fans if they're happy, but yeah,
if there are Hal Jordan fans?
there are some. I think.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that Jon Stewart is obviously he's the best Green Lantern. That's the one I grew up with. But yeah, like I because I know people have been very mad about like why are they making Hal old? I'm like, because this is an established
Yeah,
universe that we're dealing with. So, and if we're gonna have someone that is
yeah.
more
Hal's
like
got to be a little older. Yeah.
yeah, so if you're gonna these seasoned actors, I feel like Kyle Chandler is amazing. Again, people, if you haven't seen Finite Lights, please go check it out. There, it's one of the best shows of all time. But yeah, I know it's crazy that we're finally like we're gonna have like Green Lanterns in live action
It's
properly.
been
You know,
long overdue. Like we need a proper redo after the Ryan Reynolds
yeah,
fiasco. I
hard,
very
right?
sad.
He
Yeah.
has, he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Yeah,
He might
I mean, he's moved on. He's
he's
yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So
Good times for DC on HBO.
mhm. Yeah, and then I just really quick because I know you haven't seen the movie, but I wanted to touch on Joker, A Folie
Yes.
Pasado. I
What
saw it on
her
Monday.
review on Multiverse of Color, guys. She
Yeah,
has it.
I reviewed it. It's on Multiverse of Color. You can check out my review. I am one of the few people that apparently liked this movie because everyone is like shitting on it right now. Oh my god. Press is like, it takes too long, it's boring. And then the Arthur Fleck fans are pissed about the ending. I'm not gonna spoil it. But there's a lot of people who are mad, and I, along with my fellow Lady Gaga fans, one of them whom I saw on Monday, we were like, wonderful. It's camp. It's beautiful. It's literally like, I feel like the queer community might appreciate this a little bit more than like your standard comic book fans. I appreciated it. I loved this take on Lee Quinsel, like Harley Quinn. I like that she had a little bit more agency. She's a little she's crazy. She's the right amount of like crazy and like obsessed. And I honestly I love the Harvey Dent we get. Like he's perfect as Harvey Dent. There's just some really cool stuff, especially there's a couple twists that I was not expecting in the movie. I think it's worth. I mean, it is long. I'm not gonna lie, it is long. I think they could have shaved off like 30 minutes of this movie. And there's a couple times where I'm like, oh my god, he doesn't need to sing another number. There's a couple times where I was like, which is why I think I gave it a B plus or something. But I liked it. I thought it was entertaining. I love the songs. I think if you're gonna have, so my advice to have a little bit more of an appreciation for the movie, listen to the Harlequin album, Lady Gaga's Harlequin album, the film soundtrack companion to the movie, because I feel like it'll help. It helped me because I was like, oh, the music really, but like listening to it and then like really added to it for me. But I'm also a very musical person. I love music so much. I listen to it all the time. If it's only not on right now because we're recording. Like I listen to music all the time. So this is like the movie. I got it. So like I liked it. But I understand why a lot of people, the people that I'm like, reading, like certain press people, a lot of Arthur Fleck fans are not happy with the way this movie went. But also to remember, this movie only got made because the first one made billions of dollars. So really, it's your fault that this movie got made, audience.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it tomorrow, and again, everything I've seen so far from it, like I'm like, I'm digging it, because I also love musicals, and especially we don't get musicals a lot in this genre with
Yeah,
comic book
it's
stories. So I'm like,
fun.
so like again, I don't know what I sometimes don't know like what some of these fans are expecting. Am I,
I don't know anymore. But
like
that's what I think of everything, all of the DC projects as like different little Elseworlds, and I take them for what it's worth. Like this isn't going to be a straight adaptation. I'm curious to see Todd Phillips take on other DC heroes, or DC villains, Gotham villains. Like I want to see his Poison Ivy. I want to see his Penguin. I want to see his whatever. Like I think it'd be cool to see like his take on things. I think it's cool to see different creators' takes on established characters we see all the time. I think it's boring to constantly do the same thing over and over again, in live action and in media. Like, why can't we take a little bit, especially because we have Jokers and Harleys, we have multiple Jokers and Harleys, multiple Batmen, multiple Spider-Men. Like, why can't we deviate a little bit? I think fans need to loosen their grip a little bit on some of these adaptations. Like we do have a lot of Batman adaptations. You know what I mean? Like why can't we experiment a little and get a little excited? Anyway, do something a little different.
Yeah, that's why I'm like I'm excited. Just touch upon it briefly. But there's the reports about a Bane Deathstroke movie being in the works, and I'm like, let's fucking do it. We haven't had a comic book. We haven't had a comic book accurate Bane ever.
Well, I have my own opinions on that.
Like I want to see Bane. I want to see a true Hispanic get to play him. I want to see Bane get to be written as smart, because Batman and Robin is still one of the most insulting movies, not just comic book but just movies of all time.
Sorry,
I can be more forgiving of Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, but that Bane is just like I get disgusted, because the thing is, like, I love seeing like big sized men that can also be very intelligent, because I think people always assume that the bigger you are, the dumber you are, and I'm just kind of like, I don't like that notion at all. So yeah, and I'm hoping, I mean, I still think that movie is going to be like a Secret Six movie, and I'm kind of like, okay, Gail Simone, let's go.
That would be
Um,
cool. I would love Gail Simone involved in a live action. That'd be dope.
yeah, but
Yeah.
but yeah, the DC is really having its moment right now with their villains. Like the
Mhm.
Penguin, our Joker, and it's this is see Sony. This is how you do comic book villains. Right. You know, than just being like, let's give you your own movie. Let's give you your own movie. It's like,
But I think DC, especially Batman villains, have a unique thing to them where they can stand alone. A lot of villains can't stand alone without the primary, like without fighting the primary heroes. Some can, and I think a lot of Batman villains can stand alone without Batman being in the center of the story, which is why you have stuff like successful stories like Penguin, Joker, and then like unsuccessful shit like whatever they're doing with Venom. But I mean, it's camp, but it's or Morbius or whatever. Like, not everything needs to be. Not every villain is interesting to watch without the hero involved. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I'd watch a Doctor Doom origin story. I'd watch a Magneto story. I'd watch standalone stories for those villains. But
I
like,
really want a Poison Ivy movie. The more that we
me
talk about,
too. Poison Ivy is so like there's
like
so
a
many.
like a really like twisted eco terrorist story, where like she does
Exactly.
because like if you remove Batman, like she can still do what she's doing, like
Mhm.
the Batman that she could face in her role could just literally just be the government trying to stop her from, like save the climate and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah, there's so many cool things they can do with a lot of different Batman, and you can do the same thing with some Superman villains. I definitely think you can make a Lex Luthor movie. I definitely think you can make like uh, Professor Ivo, Amazo. Like there's some certain movies you can make that are just about that thing. General Zod, like you can a whole movie about before you get with the tussle between Zod and Superman's dad before the Krypton exploded, like an actual like you could talk about that. There's so many different. There's someone because those stories are rich. But speaking of villains,
yes.
we're gonna dive into this episode for the Penguin, episode 3, Bliss, which is the same name as the drug we're about to meet. Woo! So if you don't realize, they're like for the audience or whatever, whoever's listening, Gotham has a severe drug problem, and one of those big drugs is this thing called drops, and then you can drop. You saw them in the movie, Batman movie. They had them in there. Drop them into your eyes, and you get like a high. This episode, we meet a new drug that Alberto Falcone was like talking about to Oz in the first episode, and that he had like was bringing Sophia on, and we get to like see that thing. And I kind of want to talk about like the look of it, and like it kind of reminds me, it's like a mushroom, like it's harvested from a mushroom, and like the little spots are red, and it looks like, I don't know if anyone reads Poison Ivy, the current Poison Ivy series, but there's the first 2 arcs, she was able to like grow these mushrooms and stuff, and the mushrooms they're in the show look very similar to the mushrooms that were like on her that she was able to grow. And like I have a few covers, Poison Ivy covers, where like it looks very similar. So I don't know if that's just like a type of mushroom that's popular. I don't know what mushrooms look like, but I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to note that because I'm a Poison Ivy fan. And yeah, but this episode we get to like meet Vic. We get to meet Vic's family. We get to learn a little bit more about him. The flashback in this episode was so intense. Let's talk about it. The trauma, everything that Victor is like going through, his girlfriend who wants to like get him to leave town with her. Yeah, let's dive into Victor's whole arc this episode. What do you think, Andy?
I mean, at least I really love Victor so much. I'm glad I love that, because when I spoke to Greg Zobel, who's awesome, by the way. He directed the first 3 episodes, and I pointed out to him, like, it's interesting that, each episode has started out with a flashback from one character's point of view. In the pilot, it's, we see it from Oz's point of view, of course, with some archival footage from the movie. In episode 2, it's Sophia, and in this one, it's Victor. And I I really I really do appreciate it, because again, you could never have done this in a 2-hour movie. If anything, all of these scenes would have been cut, and you would have gotten like one flashback per character. And
Mm-hmm.
so I loved, again, because I love the fact that Gotham City really gets to be a character in this show where we see, like, yeah, with, like, again, I'm so glad we haven't heard about, Bruce, or, Bruce Wayne. Even I'm glad we're just focusing on the people right now who are like, yeah, like, what did their lives look like before and after
Hmm.
the attack of the Riddler. So
Right.
I really appreciate that. What did you think?
I love Vic. I think it's, I noted this in my review, like he's kind of the heart of the show, and like this keeps adding to that. He is just like a kid who just wants better, like bigger, and he keeps falling into more and more insaner situations. And I just feel bad for him. But I do appreciate the flashbacks because it shows us not just like what's going on, but it shows us the aftermath, like with in the Batman, but it shows us how this mostly affected poor people and minorities. Like Riddler had this big thing about corruption and all this bullshit, and then the people that were affected the most were the people that didn't have anything to do with it. So I think that it just like shows a little bit of like the hypocrisy and like I don't know. It's just like that. Some of these villains are like, oh, they talk a big game. They get to recruit people to them and to fight for their cause, but they really don't give a shit about anybody. They just want to fuck with people, and just seeing
Exactly.
the like seeing what the people are like, seeing the aftermath and like what what Victor had to, what all that he lost. That's crazy. He lost his family in the flood. Like that's wild. So I appreciate them showing that, but it was just like sad, this poor kid. But we also get to meet his like girlfriend, who is, you know, wants him to come with him. He's just got this dilemma this entire episode. I think one of the scenes that they did really well was when they were at the club. Um, and he was like having a panic attack and it was like
Mhm.
flashing back to the flood and it was like cut between, it was really well done. It was a really visceral visual of like a panic attack. I thought that was very smart, very well done. um but we also have like some more Sophia stuff. Like she tells like Vic like Oz used to be her driver, which I think was interesting because Vic didn't know that. Vic Oz like compartmentalizes information so he doesn't like people don't know everything about him, which is we'll we'll actually see why that is later on. For, so like that is interesting. But yeah, Sophia and Oz are like trying to figure out a way to like sell this drug. They're working outside of her family because they basically shut her down last episode. I really like Sophia and Oz's relationship. I like how they're like moving towards kind of a reconciliation that gets about basically gets blown up by the end of this episode. What did you think of like them and their triads and like that whole situation?
Yeah, first of all, like the panic attack sequence. First, again, if for some people who are watching it on Sunday, if you rewatch the episode, play and pause a few times during that sequence because what you see is that you see like the water flooding and you see all these bodies that he had to see, which I'm like, and it didn't like again like I don't know how they recreate these moments from not just the band but also like adding to where like it feels like it sings very well. As someone who like I deal with a lot of panic attacks, for me like it almost actually got a little too real to the point where like I
Mm,
actually had to like I didn't pause the episode, but like I kind of just like started looking away because I'm like, this is just a lot to take in. Renzi, he's fucking crushing it. There's a reason why he was one of my all-time favorites on Runaways. This kid
mhm.
is God, I really hope he survives their show because I want to see
Oh my
whenever.
god, I'm so nervous. I don't want him to
um,
die. Oh my god.
um and also yeah, but like with the Bliss thing, it's because I didn't know that about the Poison Ivy comic what they're doing right now. But like, if this is kind of like how Matt Reeves is planning to incorporate Poison Ivy, because she could be maybe someone that was like partially helping in the background and we don't know it yet. So and it's also interesting the fact that they're trying, they're like that Alberta was like really trying to take it, advantage of what people really read right now in Gotham. Bliss is rather than like getting super strong or getting it's something that it's more about like getting a euphoric feel to it and being able to like because right now no one is happy in Gotham right now. Like if you live in Gotham City, like I cannot imagine there being one person that is like, yeah, life's cool. like it's like I just can't imagine that. Oh, you muted, Vanessa.
That's a good point. Yeah, I was searching something. I was like actually double checking the mushroom thing. But yeah, that's a good point. I think that's the reason why there's such a drug problem, and it actually speaks to like the opioid crisis that was hitting America a few years ago. I don't know if they're still calling it that now, but when people are depressed and people can't cope, they go turn to drugs, and that's an interesting kind of like background that's happening in this story is the desperation and sadness that people are feeling that is driving them to this point. Like we're focused on Sophia and Oz and Vic, but in the background we're seeing all these like super sad, trying to not think about it people, or people that are just straight up escaping. Like Gotham feels like a war zone, honestly. Which I think
like a no man's land. Sorry. I've been waiting to say it all season.
Well, basically, yeah. But yeah, so they get to this point where Sophia and Oz have to lie to the Triad, and because they're like, we're not dealing with you guys. We don't know you guys. They say that Johnny is backing them, so they have to use the Johnny card. And he's banging Luca's wife. He's like, finally, someone knows. And that scene is hilarious to me because he's literally like, he just shoves his phone. He's like, you bitch, you bastard. Blah. Like they hate each other so much. Like all of the shit talking that BD was doing to Oz those first couple episodes. I know Oz was like, I cannot wait. I wish I could beat the shit out of your ass. Like that was such a funny scene to me. And it was like dark, but it was like cathartic. So I appreciate that little scene. So they like are distributing the drug, and I think there's like a scene where I don't know if I'm missing anything, but there's a scene where Vic and Penguin discuss him possibly leaving. Penguin's like, you're not required to stay, which I thought was interesting. Like that he just like let him go. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's just like weird, like I don't know, I want to call it father son dynamic, but like there's this like weird care that Oz seems to have for Rick. And again, it was funny because he was kind of like, well, I never said you couldn't leave. I'm like, you literally referred him in the first episode saying, if you don't come back, I'm like, oh, it's been 2 days. What are you talking about? And so yeah, I don't know. Like again, it's interesting seeing a teenager's point of view right now, but being in Gotham and like seeing like why he ultimately does end up going back to Oz, in a very explosive fashion, which we will get to momentarily. But maybe I think Oz just doesn't want to be alone. I think Oz like he has like despite that he's a villain, like he doesn't like he wants a connection with someone.
Yeah, and which explains like his relationship with Eve. Like it's transactional, but they still kind of like act domestically. Like the way he treats his mom, the way like he's a lonely dude, and you can see that in all his interactions with him. But he hates that he's lonely. He hates being vulnerable because if he's vulnerable, guess what? Someone might laugh at him, and then he gets violent. So he just kind of shuts that part off of himself, which is interesting, and it like clearly doesn't bode well for anyone around him because I just feel like it's just danger signs around. But we do see that Vic doesn't end up leaving. He actually just his girlfriend or his lady friend is like, hey, where you at? And he just like watches her leave, takes Oz's big ass bright ass purple car back. At the same time, the Maronis snatch up Vic Oz and Sophia, and basically like the jig is up at this point. Like, but
they mad. They were
because
so
like
mad.
I forgot about them. Not gonna lie, like I forgot the entire time. Like this episode, I was like, oh shit, he did have a back. Like the deal was the entire episode. The deal was that Oz was supposed to be like working. He's been working both sides. He was supposed to give over the mushroom operation to the Maronis in exchange for him running it or whatever. And he's double crossing him with Sophia and the Triad. It's just like he's playing so many games, and it literally just blew up in his face, which I find interesting. What do you think? Oh, Vic rammed his car in. Yeah, Vic to
I
save the day.
I was like, okay, I know we keep joking about the car, but I was kind of like, oh no, no, like what's gonna happen? Like what's gonna happen to the car? Like because it's a nice car, it's a nice car. Um, no, I love that like Victor is getting his hands dirtier and dirtier with the further he gets more into Oz's world, I think the more complex he gets. Yeah, I wasn't like the fact that they're already now spilling things out there, and that Oz is already in this kind of deep heat of trouble is very interesting. But I no, I think I was just like I was like awkwardly laughing when he just ran them over because I was just not expecting it because I'm like oh no, like someone's gonna shoot Sophia, like someone's gonna like rough Oz up, and then suddenly like a car. um so it's like when you see like characters like getting like like just hilariously hit by a truck in movies out of nowhere.
I
Like
know.
it's so weird but so funny at the same time. So um rest in peace, purple car.
I
Because yeah,
know.
that's not gonna. I don't think insurance is gonna cover that. I don't know if it's gonna cover ramming people over,
I sincerely doubt that man has insurance on that car, or if it's even registered.
or he stole the insurance.
Yeah, maybe as a insurance. Wink, wink.
Mm.
But yeah, so that concludes this episode. What are your overall thoughts on the episode?
It's really the pacing is really continues to be really, really well because every time you have a show that it's like when they say it's a limited event thing, it's only eight episodes. I always keep worrying like, oh, somewhere we're now gonna like start riling up things really, 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 really quickly, and it's gonna feel very rushed. But it's kind of like I feel like I can still breathe as I'm watching each episode. And episode 3 is a good testament to that.
Agreed. I think this episode was just keeps the plot moving. It's moving like I feel like it's being paced pretty well. There's a couple over the 3 episodes, like there's a couple moments where I was like, I wish I could have seen this happen. But overall, I'm enjoying the pace. I think they're doing a great job of showing right up until the end, like showing Sophia slowly forgiving and coming back to Oz into Oz's like circle. And I thought it's great acting between the two. But I'm excited to see. I'm excited to talk about episode 4. It's yeah. So yeah, we'll wrap this one up. And I don't. If you guys have any tweets or emails, any feedback, let us know. Tweet us at you can follow us on social media by going to Multiverse of Color at DC Studio Podcast. On Twitter at the Multiverse of Color, Instagram threads at DC Studio Podcast, and at Multiverse of Color on Facebook. Our interviews are at Multiverse of Color, and you can go on multiverseofcolor.com for all of our interviews, podcast episodes, news, things of that nature. Andy, where can our listeners find you?
And all of them, all, readers, viewers,
audience.
Yeah, we're multimedia now. We're multimedia now, baby.
True.
You can find me at Animaback all over social media, where social media still exists. I'm a writer at screenrant.com where I have lots of news and interviews coverage all the time. I also host the Showroom Whisperer here on Multiverse of Color. Right now it's on a hiatus, but it will be back eventually later this fall. And yeah, I also stream on Kick, YouTube, and Twitch, so you can catch me there. Vanessa Shork, where can they find you?
You can find me at Vanessa Shork on everything, Instagram, Twitter. I have a website, vanessashork.com, which I am working on updating. Finally in a good schedule space, work and daycare stuff. So I will be updating that soon, but you can catch my interviews, reviews, all the latest stuff on multiverseofcolor.com. Yeah. Next time we will see you for episode 4. Kick back, have a drink at the Iceberg Lounge.
Stay frosty.